And we're here. We're live. I think we're good.
We're live.
Let's check it out. We'll see how my sound is going before I go into my little intro. Welcome. It is Sew Together Thursday. So it's still STT, which I really like. So it's a 3-day project this week. So we are back for installment 3, where we're actually going to finish up my Lambie. So thanks for joining us. I'm Teresa Coates. I'm the National Educator for Shannon Fabrics. And we are out here in Maine, where it is nice and rainy today. So it is a little bit chilly. And so I'm wearing a sweater because we are outside on the porch and it is a little chilly to be sewing outside. So, yeah, I think it's the first time I've ever done a show without my Sew Together Tuesday shirt. So please forgive me. Anyway, we are here doing the My Lambie. And like I said, over the last couple of days, we've talked about a bunch of things. Before I get too far into it, we're going to share, or if you share the video, we'll give away a kit. So make sure that you share that video with your sewing friends and groups and all that sort of good stuff. Everybody who shares the video, we get notified that you shared it, and we'll pick a winner. And at the end of it, we will give away a beginner box kit. All right. So make sure that you share that video, and at the end, we'll announce a winner. All right. I think that's the only thing I need to tell them before we
jump in.
Do it all.
Let's jump in.
Okay. So like I said, this is the 3rd day of it. So on Tuesday, the actual Sew Together Tuesday, we talked all about how to work with the pattern, tracing it, cutting it, all of that good stuff. Yesterday, we made the feet and we did the face and we did the ears. And then today we're going to go ahead and try to finish the whole project. So I have a couple little step outs that we're going to do. I tried to work ahead just a little so we can kind of get through this whole thing. It was a great project. There's a few things that I've changed, and I'll try to reiterate those just in the order of operations. And I think reading over the instructions this morning, I think the major changes I've done probably are going to be with this body part. All right. So that sounds bizarre. With the body. So we're going to work through that. But first, I want to finish the head. Okay, so this is where we're at. This is the pattern. This is what we're getting to. Eventually, we will make this. Okay, so this is the kit. You can buy it at a bunch of different stores. We shared some earlier this week. I'm sure they'll pop up in there again, of stores that have it. Lots of quilt shops carry this kit. All right, so yesterday we did the back of the head and the front of the head. This one is sewn right sides together, and then I put the batting on the back of it. All right, so, and I pushed, you can kind of see I pushed the seam all up. So that makes it kind of poof up here at the bottom and give it a little bit of a ledge. And that's kind of what we're going for, is it gives it a little extra.
Okay, so this is the low loft?
This is the low loft batting. Exactly. This would be like your Quilter's Dream Poly.
And you just put it on with the OD 505 spray, and then you add just this one seam line.
Right. So exactly. So I stitched them together. I basted it together. I can kind of pull them apart because that's the way the basting spray will work. And then I went over this and stitched it down right along this edge.
From the top.
From the top. And what that did is give it a little bit of a, like I said, a little oomph right there. What it also does is gives it a quilting line in the middle of this. Because if you remember, I think it was 10 inches.
10 inches on this.
What I have to be able to, I need to have stitches about every 10 inches so my batting doesn't fall apart. Okay, so that's the back of the head.
Got it.
We did similar-ish, where I stitched down, did the applique on here, and stitched down the face with the applique. So yesterday we did this part of it. I showed you how to place this, and then I just stitched it down with a little zigzag stitch.
Got it. We talked yesterday after the show was over, Teresa and I, about how I thought this was almost like you couched this little split line.
Yep, it's basically couching.
Zigzag,
yep,
which
exactly.
Is really cool. And then this is a blanket stitch?
This is actually a zigzag.
Oh,
it's just a zigzag, and you can see I just used my white thread. I didn't change it. I would recommend that you change it. These were just basted in position and then stitched around. All right, so that's where we are. We got the ears done, and
Does this have? Oh, you did the same thing here, where you.
But I did that before. I did
that before.
Yep.
Okay, got it. All right.
Exactly. So now we're going to put the ears on. We got the ears sewn the other day. This is the top of the ear because the ear flops down. There's a little fold in it. So we got that to put down. So now we're going to put this in position. So if you have traced all of your markings like you're supposed to, there's a little mark there for the ears. So I'm going to put my ear in that position with it. So this is the up, right? Because this is the fold. So I want it to go right sides together that way. And I'm just going to put it in position. And I'm going to give it a little pin to hold it there. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zigzag this into position because I just want to baste it. So truthfully, we could pin both the ears in place and then sew the head together, but it's much more likely for these things to shift and move on me if I don't baste them first. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, and I've got it on a zigzag stitch. Do you want to come around or just watch from there?
I want to come around.
All right, I've got it on a zigzag stitch, my polyester thread, and a 9014 stretch needle. I changed my foot this morning.
Hang on. There we go.
So the zigzag, it's at a 5 and a 5 because that's my big like kind of basting stitch that I use. I use it for a lot of things. And now I just want to stitch this down. So I changed my foot. We'll see if this works. This one will let you see more, but it controls the fabric less.
You're still using the digital dual feed, which is
Yep.
the baby lock walking foot.
Exactly.
And this is just the open toed foot.
It's the open toe foot. So this was an additional purchase. So yeah, but I really do like it. Give it a little pull from behind, make it work itself through. I don't really care where it's landing. A lot of times I try to get the zigzag to go right off the edge. With this, I really just want it to be stuck in position. So that's what I did. All right, so now it's where I want it to be. And I've got my ears.
Ta-da!
Okay, perfect. All right, so now it's pretty cute already, right? Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and sew this together. We're going to leave a hole at the top because this will be easier to hide our hand stitching in. So it will be a little less easy to see the hand stitching when we're doing it, but it also means it will hide really well. If that seems too difficult for you, you can leave a hole at the bottom instead, and that's fine too. I just don't want to, this is harder to hide. So I'm going to hide it up in the top. All right, and these should basically match. And there should be a center mark. Yes, and that center mark will go with my little chin line. Okay.
All right.
So I'm gonna start there and just pin all the way around. Okay. I'm gonna try to get some places to match. Oh, I almost forgot one thing. I do want to do this before we get this. I knew I was gonna do this. Okay, so if you look right in here, you see the black line that's in there?
Yes.
This is the stitching line for where I'm going to sew his head on. And I'm actually going to baste this in position here, just do a little basting line so that will be smushed over here so I can line it up. Because I won't be able to see this to line that up later. So I'm going to give myself a line to shoot for. You'll see what I mean.
So you're going to straight stitch.
Yep.
3.5 by 2.5 right now.
Yeah, so I'll bump this up to a 3.5.
Okay.
Because I'm really just trying to get a line in there, and I'm just going to follow this little line.
Gotcha.
So really all I'm doing is giving myself a place to line up the body when I stitch it on later. So now I can feel that in here where that's at. But look, you can't even see it.
You can't see it.
Okay, but I'll be able to feel it, which is what we want.
Good thing you remembered that.
Okay.
That seems like something you would be frustrated about later.
Yeah, because you really can't you can't see that marking obviously later when I need it. And if you kind of eyeball it, you're likely to get it wrong. So again, I'm going to swish the llama up. Try to get those to line up. I'm just going to, as always, line up a few little places and then go from there. Okay. So I should have a line here and a line here. So because this is difficult to see, obviously through all this lovely llama cuddle, I'm just going to put a pin in each of those marks and line those up. Okay, so this is the center of my head. And I'm going to leave a hole up here. So I want to get that aligned, and then I'm going to pin a little bit, and then I'm going to take those pins out because I don't actually want to sew this area. Okay, so this is the quote unquote fun part of trying to get this all stuck together. So one of the things that I found is that I could use my big Wonder Clips for part of this. So I'm going to show you, if you are a Wonder Clip fan, and I know there are people who prefer them a lot of times, then this is something that you can do, and you can kind of throw these guys in there. Okay, and smash them down and not have to use quite so many pins. But I'm going to kind of go back and forth with them. Okay, where this ear is, that ear, if you remember, I'm going to try to think. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers, 5, 6 layers in parts of that ear. And then we're adding 2 more layers of llama cuddle here. So we've got 8 layers of fabric on those parts.
Plus 2 layers of batting.
Plus 2 layers of batting. So this part right here where the ear is, right here, is really thick. So when we get to this point, if my machine kind of argues with me, I'm just going to hand crank it through. That's how you're going to break needles, is by shoving that through, because what happens is your needle hits all of that fabric and can't quite go through, so it deflects, I think is the right word. Like the needle will kind of bend a little bit. And then when it comes all the way down, when it actually, you force it to come through, it will have been pushed back, it will deflect. So it's pushed back a little bit, and that's when it hits the metal of your machine and will break. Okay, so we want to avoid that.
No rushing.
So
and
no rushing.
You can't do this project on a featherweight.
No,
I remember us talking about possibly using her featherweight when the machine wasn't working that well at the end of the first day. And there's just too many layers here. You're gonna need a machine that's got some oomph.
Exactly. You need a hefty little machine. My featherweight is really my backup for a lot of projects, and I can do it on here, but this one is a little bit more. Okay, so I'm just trying to get that to all fit together. Obviously, I like my pins more than I like my Wonder Clips, but you are welcome to use them. Okay, so a million pins later. So down here, I won't need quite as many because I'm not trying to flatten down as much space here. And you'll notice that it will actually work really easily with the batting on there, because the batting holds the fabric really stable. So it's not really going to move too much on me at all.
It's interesting. You're not holding it up in the air when you're pinning.
No,
you're keeping it flat on the table, and you're holding it all in position with your left hand, and you're basically one-handed pinning.
Yes, it's totally true. And with this, I'm trying to like push this back so that I can see the edges really even, and then shoving my pin in so that it will stay. All right. So you can see there's some heft to this. All right. We're going to have even more when we get to the body. But we're going to go ahead and sew this all the way around the 1/2 inch seam allowance. And we're going to start here and work our way around. All right.
That's the turning, again, that's the turning hole.
This is going to be my turning hole.
All right.
Yeah. And so a lot of times, if you've watched before, you'll see that I'll often do like a little stitching line here. The llama is so fluffy crazy, I don't really care if I get a perfectly even 1/2 inch stitching line.
Okay, so no L brackets.
We're going to do an L bracket, but we're not going to do that little stay stitching that I often do. Okay. So we're going to get this in here if I can. Try to keep that. So I'm going to put my foot down. Put my needle, twist it so I can sew off the edge. Make sure I'm on a straight stitch. I'm going to back it down to a 3.0 stitch length. Okay, I'm just going to stitch over to the edge and then back, and then give it a little twist. All right, I'm going to do that thing that we've been doing lately that works really well. So if you want to show it right here. So this is on my crescendo. This is the pivot, and this is a new function for me to like get to know and learn and love. And so far, it's good. So really, whoever it was in Asheville, he told me, "Why don't you use that?" And I was like, "I don't know. Why don't I?"
Wasn't that DJ?
No. It was a lady who had shown up for this Sew Together Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she'd asked me about it, and I really didn't have a reason except that I'd never had a great experience with it. But I am learning to love it. So thank you for that. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get my stiletto so that I can kind of shove this in place. So what I'm doing with the stiletto here, and this is where it's gonna get real thick, is I am kind of pushing through it and kind of trying to push it a little flatter as it goes under the foot. And I can actually work it through with the stiletto because I can kind of grab through a few layers. Here. It's excited to go through all those layers. Excited might not be the right word, but it did it. Went through all of them. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the same thing and just kind of smush that down.
As soon as it starts to get a little hump there, you just got to get it in right away, right?
Yeah, don't let it feed up. If you're, like I said, if your machine is having some issue, just go ahead and hand crank it. Okay, so come all the way around this. You can see it feeds through here really nicely because this is really only 2 layers of cuddle and the 2 layers of batting. nice and easy. And then we're going to do a little funky thing and try to go back over this. So I will say this is where I generally have a little bit more issue, and I'm going to try real hard to keep it smashed flat as we come up over. It's usually where you hit the lumps that your machine will be like, wait, what are you doing? Make sure I get my pins out. And then this is where my ear is. So I'm going to just kind of make sure that that's in position and hold it with my stiletto and kind of make it work itself through. I feel like there's, yeah.
Oh, there's a pin in there.
It's very, very well hidden.
I'm going to get right in your way with the camera, okay?
Okay, go for it. Let's see what I can manage. Okay, these big clover pins, the box ones, the heavyweight. These are, you can see they're very important for this project because this is so thick.
And you had those two pins together to remind you where to stop for the turning hole.
Exactly.
All right, a little back stitch, and then you're going to do the L brackety business again.
Yep.
I love this.
Okay. So we go forward, backward, lock that, and then we're going to try to turn this inside out. First, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim out some of this batting along here, though. So this is just going to make it thicker down at the bottom, which I don't actually want. We're going to use this trick a couple of times of trimming out the batting. So this is kind of one of those little extra steps that it really does make a bigger difference. So I want to go ahead and trim it and not cut any of my stitching. And so instead of giving us an added thickness down here at the bottom, I'm going to take this out so it'll make it a little thinner, and it will lay better when we turn it. Because the Cuddle will, because it's a knit, it's going to work itself around that curve just fine. The batting will not. So we would have to clip those curves with the batting, or we can just trim it out. And I'm just going to trim it. Okay. So you can see already how nicely that like curls in wants to.
Oh yeah, totally. This is one of those steps that's not in the pattern, but is like a nice extra hack step. You helped with this pattern when you first started with the company like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, right? 5 years ago we came out with this pattern, and yeah, there are a few things that I'm changing the way that I'm doing now, just because I've learned how to work with fabric a little bit better. Exactly. So I'll go ahead and pull the batting up just a little bit because it is stuck down with the basting spray. So that's usually where I end up having issues, and I'll accidentally cut the fabric. So I'm trying not to do that. Just pull it up and then just throw these scraps away. So I did get the throw size. No, this was the crib size that I got for this project, and it worked just fine.
For the batting?
For the batting.
Gotcha.
Yep. So when you're looking for batting, you can get the crib size, and it will work. And then if you get the craft size for the thicker batting, I'll show you how to use that. All right. So this up here, it's fine. It's in that thick stuff. It'll be fine. All right. Are we ready to see if I can turn this guy inside out? I'm gonna try to get his mouth out. Oh, you know what I forgot to bring out is that big knitting needle. If Linda's watching today, she's probably like, Teresa, I gave you that needle for turning. And it was super easy when we struggled with the star a few weeks ago.
Oh.
Yeah, and she gave me that, and it worked out really well. Okay, but that turned out just fine. So I am going to grab my point turner here. I'm going to stick that down in that hole. Kind of push out those edges. Get that to be nice and smooth. There we go.
I can really see why it was good to take the batting out of that seam now.
Yeah, it turns much nicer.
Yeah, it's all laying nice and flat.
Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to stuff his head a little bit.
All right.
So this is with the silky polyfill, and I'm going to go ahead. So this looks like a lot of filling, but it's going to be fine. Okay. I would suggest not overfilling it just because it will get more wrinkly down at his chin. If you want to completely avoid a chin and you're comfortable adding to your pattern, you could add a gusset. But really just if you lightly stuff his head, it should be fine.
And one of the nice things about the silky in particular is that even if you're not going to overstuff it, it doesn't clump.
Doesn't clump. Nope. You just shove a whole bunch in there and it's just fine. I like it. And then the other thing about it is that we've added that batting to it. So that's going to smooth this all out really nicely. But even if there is any clump in your batting, it's not really going to show through that.
Oh, right.
Or any clump in your stuffing, it's not going to show because of the batting.
Got it.
Okay. So there we go. Get that all filled up. Then I'm just going to go ahead. I don't have my needle here, but we're going to just whip stitch that shut and it will totally hide in there. All right. So
okay. Whip stitch or your handy ladder stitch.
Yep.
Like that.
Yep. So if we get to a point that I can show that, we will. But there's this cute little face.
And then it attaches to the body on the back side where you did that little stitching line, which is
where you can sort of see how it lays a little bit funny right in here.
Find it. Yeah, I got nothing. Oh no, there it is. Okay.
There it is.
All right.
You can.
If you didn't have that stitching line in there, you might be in trouble later.
Right. You would just not know where. You'd have to guess where to put it. So that just helps. So you can see also how his head like kind of pops out in the back. How it has a little extra oomph.
Okay.
That's because of how the seam went. It's cute, right, guys?
Super cute.
Super cute. Okay, so I'm going to put his head aside. We're going to come back to that. Let's tackle this body. Okay.
He told me to remind you to place the heart.
That's right. Okay. So thank you. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is I want this piece here. So I went ahead and prepped these already. And I'm going to take that off. And I put batting onto the back of my pieces. So it says in the pattern to cut out the batting, the same pattern shape. Use the pattern to cut out the batting the same size as this. I would suggest that you have a big square of the batting, you spray baste it in position and trim it to match. The problem with trying to cut it and get it perfectly in the right position, that's frustrating for me. It might work really well for you because tracing or cutting around this is also a little bit frustrating because you've got all this extra thing. So it's kind of maybe 6 of one, half dozen of another. So you can put your batting down as a big square and trim it, or you can cut it to size and then try to get it perfectly in place. All right. But I did that on both sides, and you're going to do that with the thin batting. So this is, again, the like Polly request, thin batting.
And you're still getting it out of the crib, the crib batch.
Yep, exactly.
The crib size.
Because we got 2 of the body sizes and the 2 heads is what we got out of that piece.
All right.
All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tackle our belly. Okay. So the belly is here, and I can just head it to figure out which one is top and bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find my quarter marks. So I should have transferred them from the pattern because they're on the pattern. Okay. But I didn't because that's the way I like to roll sometimes. That's what I was afraid of.
You got 2 out of the 4?
Not even sure if that one is particularly one, but it might be. Okay, so I'm just going to fold it in half because what we want is to find the quarters. Okay. So there we go. Okay, good. All right, so I got that basically in the right position. So transfer those marks. Don't be like me.
Or do it the hard way.
Or do it the harder way, which is just finding the quarters. It's not terrible. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin it over here. And I'm kind of doing a little bit of a double pin. Not a double. What did we call this? We had another.
Wiggly?
I don't remember.
Wiggle, wiggle.
Oh, wiggle, wiggle.
Wiggle, wiggle.
That's what it was.
Right.
It's just a wiggle, wiggle. Okay, we're going to stick it in there a couple times just to make sure it doesn't fall out so easily. And then I've got my pieces marked, so I know where my quarters are. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to stick my heart down. So just to reiterate, we traced it onto SF 101. I ironed that onto the back of the Cuddle 3 and then cut it out inside of the black line. So I can see a little bit of black line there. Go ahead and trim that. Just because I'm doing a raw edge applique and I don't want that to show against the fabric.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now I'm just going to arbitrarily pick a spot. There is a mark on the pattern, but I don't really follow all the pattern details. So you can place it perfectly or just eyeball it, and that is fine too.
All right, what was that roll?
So this is the water-soluble stabilizer. I'm going to use that in just a second. But the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spray the back of my heart with a little bit of the 505 spray. So this is the OD 505 that I like so much, and I'm going to spray the back of this and stick it in position. So this will help. In the pattern, it says you use a double-sided fusible for this and you would iron it in position, but I don't like ironing it. This is way faster. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put it someplace.
Where is your heart?
I'm going to try really hard to get it to go straight down. Okay. So either try to get it straight down or really knock it off. This is also a place that if you wanted to, you could embroider this and then cut out your, like you could draw your heart and then embroider in here and cut it out. So you could actually have like a little name or something like that here if you wanted to, initials, whatever you wanted. But you could add some little personalizing in that position. Okay, so this is my water-soluble topper, is really what that is. I like to use this when I am top stitching things, when I'm appliquing, because it'll just get a nicer edge to it.
This thought about it, you can coordinate this heart with our comet hearts pattern.
Oh, you absolutely could. Mm-hmm.
That'd be fun. Which was a pillow, right?
Right.
The comet hearts pillow that we did for Valentine's Day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to pin this in position. I'm going to stitch around it. It gives me the ability to not catch the edge of it when I'm stitching around it, and I think it helps the stitches kind of stay on top of this. So we didn't do it with the face. You absolutely could. I just kind of wanted to show you both ways so you could make your own choices. All right. Let me come back over here.
Pile of pins.
I love my pile of pins. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let's do the blanket stitch. Now I'm going to say that and I'm like, I can't remember which is the one that I like better. So I'm going to go ahead and test it because this is what you should do. So I want to do the one that doesn't go a couple of stitches at a time. Let's see. Okay, that's what I want, is that kind of stitch, but I want it much shorter so that those are closer together.
Okay.
Nope, closer than that.
There's that stitch.
Okay, so that was a 3 millimeter wide, one length. And that's what I get here. So this was on the default up here, and you can see how far apart those are. And I can't remember what the default was now, and I'm not changing it back, but this wasn't the one, and I like that better. So you can use this or you could use a zigzag. All right, but let's do this. We'll see what happens. I'm going to start down here at the point because then I don't have to try to match it up to anything, which sounds easier to me. And I've got that big open toe foot on there, so I'm going to be able to see where the needle is going pretty darn easily.
As long as there's not a camera in your face.
Right, exactly. And I'm just going to come right along the edge of that fabric. So I'm stitching so that the straight line comes right off the edge of that. And then that little thing comes over where it sort of looks like a hand stitch almost. Okay, and I'm going to take it really nice and slow as we go around this corner. See, that's when that pivot comes in handy. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah, the needle stayed put. And
then my whole foot lifted. Look at pink. So good. Really is one of those things that I'm like, how was I doing without this? There's always something new you can learn about your machine. I'll tell you that. Like I've worked on this thing for 2.5 years or something. Yeah, still learning stuff. Turn that. Come down to this little divot.
Pivot.
Twist. I'm just going to come all the way around, nice and slow. So you can absolutely, this is, I did the zigzag, but you could absolutely do this on the eyeballs too, if you wanted to, and the nose for a little bit more of a, I don't know, hand sewn look. I really like it. You can also do a straight stitch, and we've talked about that before, but the straight stitch I think is harder to maintain the seam allowance or whatever, like the top stitch distance is harder. The blanket stitch here or the zigzag is a little easier. So what I recommend. And I'm just going to keep coming down that edge till I get to the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and do a little lock stitch.
Not the back stitch, the lock stitch.
The lock stitch, yeah. Okay, so if you don't have a lock stitch, you could back stitch with this. It's a little bit funkier. So you could also leave longer tails, pull it to the back, and knot it. All right, so now we'll go ahead and I will take the pins out. Then I can go ahead and pull this. So this is a water-soluble stabilizer. So if I put this in water, it would dissolve because really it kind of is a little bit like glue or something. But that's not what we want to ever do with the Cuddle. So if you're using a water-soluble topper, don't spritz it with water to get it out. You can do that with cotton, but with the Cuddle, it would just get stuck in all of the stitches and be really weird.
Yeah, it gets gooey on the nap, right? And,
yeah.
and ultimately, the first time you really washed it, it would come all the way out.
But it's funny because there's so much, because we're basically outside. I can feel it's sticky.
Oh yeah,
because of the moisture.
It's raining here, so that there's already humidity in the air, and
yeah,
it's got
I can feel it. Okay, so I can use my little stiletto and pull this stuff out. So that's how you're going to get these out. So a lot of times people want to spritz it with water to get it out, but it will just get gooey in the nap, which, as you said, it will come out in the wash, but you don't have to.
I remember somebody telling me that a little toothbrush right about here was good.
Mm-hmm. Yep, would totally work too. All right, so there we go. We've got our cute little heart. All right. So now, and I will say that this is the important parts to get this heart on. That's why I had Hawk remind me, because if you don't do it now, you're going to be in trouble. All right. So we've got our body. The body and the front and the back of the body are exactly the same piece, same shape, kind of like a little, I don't know.
Like a balloon.
Balloon. There you go. It's like a balloon.
It's like a balloon or a light bulb.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to mark my quarters on this as well. Okay, so here I've got I actually have a mark on my center bottom. Look at that. So good. And I'm going to do the little, what'd you say? Wiggle, wiggle?
Wiggle, wiggle.
Okay. There. And I'm going to do it up here. I'm going to fold this in half. And I want to leave that tail out real far so I can see it, because if I push this in, I'm going to lose it in the nap. Okay. Half the battle with this fabric is really just getting it to go where you want it to, or being able to see where things are going, getting it to go there and then seeing where that is. So I'm trying to line this line up with my yellow, which you can't see super well, but there's my pin. So I'm trying to line that up so that this is the halfway of the circle part of his body. Okay. See if I have a mark. Nope. Okay, so I'm going to stick that out there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do the same thing here. So again, I'm just marking the quarters. I folded it in half, obviously, to where the circle part is, not trying to get it up here because half the circle is going to be here. Okay. All right. So now I've got my body and I've got my belly. And now I need to get these to line up. All right.
So where's the neck again? It's up there
The
at the
neck
top.
is
There it
right
is.
up there.
Got it.
So I'm going to try to line all of these up. So the biggest part is getting these 3 that are closest to line up, but making sure that this I can, like, you know, fold that down and it would still match. All right, because I still want it in the center. These are much easier. And if I get these right, that top one is much more likely to be right. All right, so I'm going to scoot my pins. So I'm just lining up the pins here. I'm lining up the pin here so that I can get this basically where I want it to be. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin that in position and that. And I'm just kind of going to swipe it across and get it as straight as possible. This is the width of the fabric and this is not backed with anything. So I could stretch this and really get it in the wrong position, which is not what I want to do. Okay, I need to reach over here. My ruler. So I'm going to kind of just eyeball this and see. So I can see it's about 2.5 inches from the edge here. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to see where that's at. It's about 2.5 inches from the edge. So I'm fair enough. I can't really tell exactly without getting really.
It doesn't seem like it's that at the bottom.
It does not, but that is how it is on here.
Okay.
So
we're not changing it now.
I'm not changing it.
Okay.
No, because really I don't think that it's perfectly symmetrical all the way.
Got it.
Okay. So, but the biggest part is that I get that nice and even. Okay. All right. Do you want me to move it up? Will it bother you?
No, I actually kind of like it a little closer at the bottom.
Okay.
Honestly, I think it looks cute that way.
Okay.
Symmetry is overrated.
It really is. God, because my face is not symmetrical.
That's my word.
Yeah.
For the day.
All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my sheet that we talked about that I've used all the time. I'm just use this for my spraying. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sandwich this kind of. I'm going to put this in between here so that I'm not going to spray anything that is the right side of the fabric here. All right. So I've got my sheet down and I'm going to spray the back half of this. All right. Now I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to get this nice and flat. And I'm going to move my pin so that it's down where I can kind of see it a little better. So I can aim for that. All right. And I want to kind of give it a little bit of a tug just to get it nice and straight. Okay. And then I'm just going to work my way around, put it in position. And it won't stick too much until I really start to like smash it, which I'm going to do because I want it to be smashed.
Cuddle smackdown.
Okay. And then I'm going to pin it in position here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin this down a few times. Grab some pins. Would you switch those over? Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and just pin these in position here. Okay, and again, like I said, I want it kind of pulled. It wants to be taut. So don't pull it so that you're stretching it, but get it nice and flat. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin this whole thing in place before I do the other side. You could absolutely pin one side than the other, but I figure if I do this, I have a little bit more pulling power on the other side because it's nice and in position. Okay, and I am pinning, so it's a little bit more. Use the heavy duty pins if you have them because you're going through this layer of Cuddle, and the batting. So you're pinning that all in position. All right, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the other side. So I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to lay this out so I can fold this back over it, not spray any of my right side. Okay.
And you're really, really sparing with that 505 spray. It doesn't take a lot.
It doesn't take a lot.
You're not spray painting it.
Nope. Don't go over it too much. Can definitely get too much on there. And if you do get too much on there, you'll get little wet spots, which is not cool.
It will wash out at the first time you wash the whole playmat, but in the meantime, it's not going to look great.
No, and it's just a spot that will attract dirt, which sometimes the dirt, whatever that dirt is, will sometimes stain the fabric. So the less you can, attract the dirt, the better. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pin this again the whole way. Come on, there we go. It's like I felt like I was stabbing myself. I was. The green pin was under there stabbing me. Okay, I'm going to try to make sure that that doesn't get pushed up too far. You can see how it kind of wants to push, and I'm going to try to keep it in place the whole time. All right, so now I've got it pinned the whole way around. His whole belly's on, the heart is on. We're going to stitch a little bit, and I'm going to show you the next step. Because going all the way around his belly is going to take a little while. How are we doing with time?
We're doing all right. We're at 45.
Great.
A little more than 45 minutes in.
So I will stitch this, be able to stitch it all down. So this one, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to switch it to a zigzag stitch because it's easy. You could absolutely leave it on this stitch if you wanted to. So if you wanted to stitch, I would probably make it a little bit longer between here. Maybe move it up to a 2 millimeter length, make it a little bit wider. See if I do that, it'll give it a little bit length. You'll get around it faster. So you could do that for the same like consistency of look, but I'm just going to switch it back to a zigzag because it's faster. And I like to be quick here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put my foot down. I'm gonna do a little lock stitch, and all I'm gonna do is zigzag all the way around, trying to get the zig. And hopefully you guys can see with this foot, the zig is gonna come down right off the Cuddle 3, and then the zag's gonna be over here. So it's just gonna kind of come off and catch that edge is what I'm gonna try to do. I'm gonna have to use my stiletto to keep this out from underneath the foot.
So it was a great question. You didn't double pin this because you didn't parallel pin it. You actually perpendicular pinned it. And that's because you're going around a big curve, right?
It's because I'm going around a curve and it is basted in position. Right. So like when I sewed the eyeballs on, I basted them down. And because the basting was really good, I didn't even have to, I didn't pin that at all. I just sewed around it. So the basting will actually keep it in position really well. So the basting is super important. If you decided that you didn't want to use the basting for some reason, the basting spray for some reason, you would need to pin this like crazy because it would be sliding all over this stuff. But because I basted it down, it just stays there. All right. So my biggest issue with this is going to be keeping that nap out of the way, which I'm going to do the whole time with my stiletto.
Swoosh,
and just swoosh it down in front.
Swoosh.
So if it gets stuck, you can absolutely just pull it around. You'll be fine. We did a llama Cuddle throw once. Do you remember that? We were sewing and the llama fur was so thick you couldn't see the foot at all. So
having half of this BC3 on one side at least seems like,
it's a little bit easier.
It's helpful with the viewing. It's only half blind sewing.
It's only half blind. Oops, I ran right over that pin.
I didn't see anything. It didn't happen.
Didn't happen. Okay. Try to keep the pins over to the side. And again, just swishing it out of the way. Okay. All right. Let's see if I can get all the way around here so I can show the next step.
You do have the step out ready for this though, right?
I do.
Okay.
Yep. If I can get a little bit more than halfway, I'll show you the next step. Okay. So I'm going to keep going all the way around. Okay. Take that pin out if I can. Just try to keep that zig right along that edge. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. We're going to pretend that we just stitched all the way around just because it's going to take a while and I don't want to do that. Okay, because I can show you the next step. So you're going to zigzag the whole way around. Then you're going to go ahead and turn this back over. All right. Then we have a piece of the puff. So I have the Quilter's Dream Poly Puff, which is the other batting that is the thicker stuff. So you can see this stuff, super thick.
Nice. The high loft.
This is a high loft. Okay. So this will give it a little bit extra fluff, which
and that was
I think
the craft size package.
this was the craft size package. Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I want to do is I want to pin it, or I want to baste it down in the middle of this. So I'm going to go ahead and use my basting spray. I'm going to put this in position, make sure that it covers everything that I just did and everything that I was supposed to have just done. All right, and I'm going to baste that here. So the only trick with this one I will tell you is just try to baste in that circle, because we're going to stitch this down and then trim it. All right, so we're going to come back around here. I'm going to go to a straight stitch. I'm going to do a 3.5 straight stitch.
Okay, hang on. Sketch back up here. Straight stitch.
3.5
by 3.5. Okay.
Yeah, so just a plain old straight stitch, but a little bit bigger because we're working through a lot of layers. And this isn't to do anything but to hold that batting in place. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch right along the edge of the C3.
So right in the zig.
Yep.
Is it right inside of the zigzag?
Right where it came down before. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch this whole thing down. All right.
So on this high loft batting, what did the package say about how often you needed to quilt it?
This one was the same, so it's every 10 inches.
10 inches, and we're not really going to tack this down in the middle.
You absolutely can. Yes.
Okay.
So in the not sure if it's in this one that you can see. Yeah, you can't see it because the baby is on it, but there is like a little tacking stitch here underneath the baby.
All right.
Okay. So if you want to give this to a baby that is then going to use it a lot, you could definitely tack it down in the middle. Just do a little stitching. It'll be fine. Okay, so you're going to go the whole way around this. Stitch just like basically in the gutter is what I'm doing. So here you can see where it just pops back up again. My stitching is down there. So there's a row of zigzag and then a row of straight stitch. All right. So there's that straight stitch. So at this point, I think I can bring out my other one. Yes. Okay. So we're going to put that to the side. I'm going to toss it like I'm Julia Childs. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead. And so this one I did earlier.
Without the wine.
Yes. So this one I did earlier, and I did some brown thread on this so you can actually see the stitching really well. And I'm just going to come along here and I'm going to trim out the high loft all the way around. So I did part of it. You can also see my Franken batting that I did this morning. Okay, so this is the part that if you have accidentally basted this here, you then have to unpeel this and this becomes sticky. So when I first did it, I spray basted it all together and then did this. In the pattern, it tells you to do this step first, and I like to do it last. So yeah, either way.
That's right. That's right, Jackie. Add a little Lambie belly button in the middle.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yep. You could absolutely, if you wanted to, stitch that heart right in the center, and that would do it too. Okay. So we're going to go all the way around here. So I'm just stitching down. I just stitched it, like I said, straight stitch, 3.5 stitch length. Scissors want to catch on the other batting, of course. Just going to try to get that all the way. Okay. So I have a little bit more over here because I did use just a hunk o batting like I did on the other one. Okay, so we're going to get this all nice and neat. It does not need to be perfectly even or super duper close to the stitching, but what it does is it gives it an extra puff here. That when I turn this over, you'll be able to see that extra really, really soft. So this makes this center not only puff up, which I think is super cute, it also makes it so that it's softer here and thinner than it is here. So this one is only the little bit, and this one is the added layer. So this is soft as where the baby is, but this stays easier to sew because it's only one layer. So that's the thing, is you're keeping all of the really thick batting out of the seam allowances.
Got it. I like the dynamic layer changes. I think I think it really makes this, you know, a super fun, a super cute project.
Absolutely. So this one, I didn't do the heart because I didn't have any more of the blue fabric, but at this point your heart would be down here, and then you could stitch all the way around that if you wanted to do it here to make the heart even puffier. Okay. So this is a little bit harder to stitch through depending on your machine, just because it is so, like, I wish there was, like, you know, a way to visually
we could see it,
show you how thick it is.
I think it actually showing up pretty well.
Good. It is so thick and so soft and yummy. All right. Okay. So now we're going to stick our feetsies on. So I did half of them already. We're going to go do the other one. So remember yesterday we did the feet, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is the notch. If you remember, there's a notch in the pattern and the little 2 lines, and I changed it to a notch. This is what that is marking for me. On my piece here, I transferred the mark and I actually just drew a notch. Those are going to match, and the feet go between these 2 marks. Okay, so that's how I know how to put the foot on. The foot isn't going to go this way. It's going to go this way because my notch is going to match up here, and the feet are going to go between the lines. All right. So that's a very common question that I get, that people want to know, which way do the feet go? Which way do the feet go? And I'm like, the feet go the way the notch shows. I don't remember which one it is. It's the wider side.
And is it the front feet where the top of the leg part is actually more of a rectangle?
Yes.
And then the bottom feet are the ones where it's a parallelogram, where there's a little bit of a diagonal on one side.
Exactly. So and that notch is what you need to keep an eye on so that you know which way that goes.
Got it.
Okay. And you just need to make sure that you do it the same on both sides. So that's the biggest thing, is if you get it backwards on one side, make sure you do it backwards on the other. Okay?
I love that answer.
That'll be your biggest issue. All right. So let's sew this one, then we'll come back over and sew the other one. So I've just pinned this. I pinned it where it's supposed to be. And then I kind of pinned here, and then in between to get it to kind of go around this curve, because this is the circle. This was a straight line. So we just kind of have to force it to be where we want it to be. We're going to go back over here, and we've got that big puffy stomach and all this stuff over here. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to get it in here and get it to do what we want it to, but it should be able to just fine. So again, big zigzag, the 5x5 zigzag, just to base this in position. So right now I'm not trying to sew these in any way except to keep them where I want them to be. And I find it a little bit easier to sew from this side because I can see that edge a little better.
With the batting up.
Yeah. I'm not really, like I said, trying really hard to get it right over the edge. I have a 1/2 inch of wiggle there. So if it's a little off, it's fine. And again, if you're having any trouble with it, you can hand crank this. Okay. Make sure that that's catching. This I will tell you is the biggest issue is the not catching. That the things will move on you and then not get caught. Also, my back door stay shut. Okay. There we go. That's why I just keep fighting with it. Okay, so now we're going to take this and we're going to do the same thing. I've got 2 marks. So here and here, this is where it goes.
So this one's the rectangle, so there's no notch.
No notch.
This one doesn't matter which way it goes.
Yep, exactly.
Got it.
Does not matter. So I'm going to pin this in position. Pin it in the center in position. And then pin the other end, and then I can pin in between to keep it where I want it to be. All right, but that will at least get it sort of in the right area. All right. The other thing that you can do if you're really struggling with too much fluff in these, so make sure that you don't stuff them too hard. The other thing is you can push it down and pin here to keep that fluff back. So it's kind of a double pinning thing, but it's really the purpose is to hold the fluff away because your feet are stuffed. Okay, so just another trick to sort of get it to stay where you want it to. All right. All right. Let's go sew that. All right. So again, same thing. Shimmy it underneath the foot there. I'm going to go ahead and stitch that down. Make sure I don't sew over any pins. Okay, so this like here, I don't know if you can see how fluffy that is, but that's a lot of fluff right there. And that's from the foot and the batting in the center. So really be patient with it when you're working with this. Take it nice and slow and understand that it's a lot of thickness. So it's not impossible to do by any stretch, but it is definitely a little bit more because there's a lot of puff.
Got it. I liked how you did the perpendicular pins like you have been because it's the curves, and then you added that one row of parallel pinning, just kind of hold the stuffing of foot out of that seam.
Right. And so what that
now
does
it'll just go right back.
Right, exactly. And what that does is gives you a little bit of a flatter area to deal with, which is nice. Okay, so there we've got all of our feet put in there.
Gail, that's a great question. We honestly don't know what was wrong with the machine.
Yeah.
It's a mystery.
I think that the bobbin case was not setting in correctly, and we switched it a few times, and then finally one of the times it seemed to work. But there is something else going on that we're gonna have to deal with. Oh no, I think I didn't pin the bottom. I mean, mark the bottom. So I'm gonna go with my mark here for my foot. I hope that that's about the middle. So you're gonna match up your center marks.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing with you, right? I'm laughing with you.
Okay, so this is a lot of fluff. Okay, so we're going to take this nice and slow, and I'm definitely going to kind of mush in some of my big wonder clips here. I want to get the neck lined up. And I want to get that curve lined up. So I can kind of squish this stuff in between so I can see what's happening just a little. Okay, and here's my line for my foot to get marked. So I'm going to line that up with my foot here. All right, this is how we can sort of keep this even, make sure that we're not getting too distorted.
So you basically pin everywhere where you know it's supposed to match, and then you pin you pin it in between. Got it.
Which is kind of my MO much of the time. Okay, now this. Okay, this is going to be a bunch. All right, I'm going to stick some wonder clips in there, and we're just going to take it nice and slow when we go over that, because it is definitely some heft.
Wow, your wonder clips barely opened up enough to get over.
Yeah,
that.
it's some
that's
some heft. Okay.
Okay.
Now I'm going to try because this will be a little bit flatter. So I tend to like to keep it flat up top. So I put my clips in backwards, but I have noticed that when I've used them with this project earlier, that this kind of got in the way a little faster. So I'm actually going to switch it over. I think this might be a better way.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll do it this way, and then I'll let you know if it works better. I feel like it will. Okay. And really, honestly, just doing things a couple of different ways is the way to figure out the one that works best for you. So just because it worked better for me does not mean it will work better for you.
I don't know. I think that's a pretty good bet.
I think it's a good place to start. Just because I've probably tried it 4 different ways. Okay, there's so much puff. So this will definitely be a little bit of blind sewing. And mostly what I'm concerned about is keeping my edges fairly even so that they don't get too far off. I don't really care if they match perfectly or if my seam is a perfect 1/2 of an inch, but I do want to keep those together. That is some.
There's a lot going on there. Today's arm day.
Yes.
It's like a wrestling match.
Hand day
right
is what this is.
Hand day.
Yeah.
Yes.
My hands are getting a good workout. Okay. So the one thing that you could do is if this was too much, then something that you could do to make it different is that you could stuff these afterward, leave yourself a turning hole down here, stuff it later, and then sew this shut. So if you're having too much trouble with the loft, that's one thing that you could do a little bit differently. You then have to hand sew all those shut, but it would be a different way of doing it that you wouldn't get this extra puff here because those would be flat. I mean, look, that's some crazy right there. Just say it. It's some thick. Hey. All right, we're just going to use our stilettos like crazy right there. And really try to smash it down as it comes through the machine. Trying to make sure I've got this lined up. I started pinning and not measuring it first. So let me make sure I'm getting this. It's all going to fit in nice. And I'm not going to have to ease somewhere else. I think I might go through all of my 100 pins for this project. All right, there we go. Get a few more in here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pin this whole thing, and then we're going to sew all the way around it. And this may take us a little while. So, go grab yourself a little drink, come back, fill up your coffee. We're going to stitch around this thing and see what happens. All right.
It's a marathon.
That is some fluff. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm not going to get any puckers and I'm easing things in the right places.
Oh, so could hit the wind chime on the porch.
Nice. Could you do this in a different fabric? Absolutely. This is what the kit is. The only way to get the pattern is through the kit, just so you know. If you did want to do this in a different fabric afterward, though, you totally could. All right.
That is amazing. It looks like, I don't know, it looks like a canteen.
Yeah, it kind of does.
I don't know.
Hot water bottle?
Hot water bottle. There you go. Look at that thing.
It is a little nutty. So I'm going to go ahead and move my machine back just a little bit so I have a little space in front of it to kind of let this sit there because it's a lot. And I can't hold it up in the air so much. Okay. So I am actually going to switch this out to my regular closed toe foot. Okay. Because I don't want to have so much space that is not being controlled. I really want to, just really want to use the whole foot to smush my fabric down. Okay.
So every advantage. You need every advantage right now.
Because where this is will allow the fabric to puff up in between those, and then that will be annoying. So we're not going to do that. All right. Slide it under here. Remember, most machines have can you come around the other side and show this? So most newer machines will have an extra lift. This is when that comes in nice and handy. Okay, so this will allow me to slide that under there really easily. So don't forget, you probably have that on your machine.
Got it.
Okay, so then when I put my foot down, my foot goes all the way down. I'm going to switch it back to a straight stitch. We're going to switch it up to a 3-stitch length. Probably switch it up to a 3.5. You'll be fine. Okay, because this has got a lot of thickness. And the more thick it is, or the thicker it is, the more it will kind of struggle to get through. So we're going to go ahead and just use a bigger stitch length. And if you need to open yours up a little bit more, go right ahead. All right, so now I'm going to do the little curve here around this corner. And then we're just going to sew a huge circle and see how this goes. Make sure to take our pins out.
Now's a great time if you've got questions, though I'm basically just like open mouthed right now about I'm just like slack jawed about this seam. Seems pretty intense.
It's pretty intense. So
everybody with me?
Smush it down. So I'm going to smush it down, and so I've got my hand in the back here that I'm kind of not pulling the fabric, but I am keeping some tension on it as it comes through and smushing it down in the front as much as I can.
So there was the question, can you use the walking foot? We are actually using the walking foot. We are using the digital dual feed by Baby Lock, and that's their version of a walking foot. No matter what machine you're using, Teresa almost always recommends a walking foot when sewing with Cuddle.
Yep, exactly.
With the rare exception of small curves in stuffed animals.
Yeah, I can't imagine trying this without some sort of assistance with a digital dual feed, or like with the brother machine, they're called a move it foot, a walking foot. And if I were using just a regular walking foot, I would recommend that you change the presser foot pressure if you can, to give yourself a little bit more room, just to let that fluff come under there.
So less pressure, not more
pressure. Less pressure.
With the presser foot adjustment. All right, exactly. I'm going to come around to the back actually, and we're gonna look at this dual feed and see what your left hand is doing, because I think that's pretty exciting.
So you can hear it trying to get through all those layers. Make sure that you are using a stretch 9014 stretch needle to get through all of this. All right.
Otherwise, you will be skipping stitches. Universal needles do not work with knit fabrics.
Okay. Just slow and sure. I'm going to get to an easier spot here at the bottom. You going to flip that up for me?
I'm trying. There we go.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, this one, if you have a Baby Lock crescendo or something or even a machine like this size, and you have the removable tray, the quilting tray, I just thought this would probably be a good project for that, because it'll give you a bigger area to work with that will stay flat. So the weight of this won't become such an issue. So if you've got the big quilting tray, this would be the time to pull it out. I'm not going to ask you to go get mine, huh? I have mine with me, but it's in the dinette, I think, underneath the seat. So it hides away most of the time.
It's buried in the RV.
Like, I'll just wait here. But thinking about it, I bet that would actually work really nicely. Okay. So it is catching, right? I am actually sewing. This would be the worst time to be sewing without any thread in the bobbin. I'm just saying. Okay. Look at this. We're like 2/3 of the way around.
You haven't had to hand crank once. Somebody's losing a bet. I saw that comment.
Yeah, I know I definitely did when I was, I made this before on my vintage FOF machine, and I had to hand crank that.
That one, that FOF machine too, is a speed demon as well.
It is a
right?
speed
demon.
It
basically doesn't have a slow.
No, no, it had an industrial motor on it. So it was a good one. But the foot wouldn't come up as high. So that was definitely something that was a little bit harder for it to deal with. Yeah. This one is cranking through. There's some serious thickness here. So I kind of want to go over it twice I think I might just we want to make sure that it's actually catching because it's so thick. We want to make sure that those stitches are nice and strong.
So does that mean you want to back stitch back over that spot, or
no, I would just kind of go over them again.
Okay.
Just to make sure that they caught really nice and strong, because like with stuffed animals, that's where the kid will grab it and pull it. Okay, around this last corner. Okay, so this we're almost to the exciting part, which will be the turning, which we were talking about earlier this morning. Will be a little extra through this little hole right here. So yeah, could be a lot of fun.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, this whole thing has to come through there.
Yeah. So
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, now there are bets. Now I'm opening up the books, everybody.
All right. So, I'm just giving these a tug and making sure that they're caught and they're not moving funny. So I would be able to feel them if they were loose in there, and I don't feel anything. So I'm going to trust that it's going to work. We'll see. So one of the things that you could do is you could absolutely come along in here and trim all of this batting out, which is just another tedious step that nobody wants to watch me do over and over again. But you can absolutely do it, and it will make it turn a little bit better. All right, so it'll make it nice and smooth. So we'll see what happens when I don't do it and what difference that makes. Okay, so this neck is big enough for me to put my whole hand in, which bodes well. I'm just going to grab this end and hope for the best.
It's all fun and games until you run into one of those legs.
Yeah, that's the part that I'm like, oh, that's going to be interesting. Oh, there's one. Let's get it out.
All right. One.
Oh, wait, there's a pin.
Uh-oh, what's happening? Whoa.
Look at it.
Wow.
That was exciting. That would have been bad if it got in my hand.
Glad you found it by sight.
Me too.
I can't believe that. I wonder what bent it. I mean, obviously.
Me pulling.
Oh, okay.
I felt it bend.
You didn't run over it.
No, I felt it bend. I don't know where it was stuck, but it was. Okay. Look at a foot out. So is anybody a sheep herder? Is this actually what it's like?
Like, are you lambing? You're lambing the lamb?
Yeah, it feels like some sort of a birthing process here. Oh, that actually is working okay. Hey, guys.
It totally is, Annette. It does appear to be lambing the lammy.
Okay. So this is a new technique for me to shove from this side. I don't really do that. That actually seems to work pretty good to get that to kind of make its way through a little bit better. Okay, so if it gets stuck, there's an option for you. Look at that, we did it.
All right.
That was actually easier than the star a few weeks ago. So we had a good laugh about that one. All right, let me move the pins because I feel like this is an easy time for them to get accidentally stuck. Okay, so I can just use my hand to kind of swish it, push it out, get it in position. Look at that. Okay, that is fabulous. Very excited about that. All right, so now we're going to just sew this onto the back of the head. We're just going to hand stitch it. We have enough time.
I mean, we're already over our hour. It's fine. So we're, we basically have, another 40 minutes at this point.
Right. Great. So let's sew it together then. So because we've got this, oh, look at how puffy that is. It's so sweet.
I just kind of want to take a nap right now. So
yeah,
can we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut a big thing of thread here. And I'm going to double it up on here. Okay, so I have a double length of thread. I'm going to knot it. All right, so there we go. I've got my big piece of thread, not too big, maybe, 14 inches or so here.
There's no tail on this pattern.
There is not. You could make one if you wanted to, but it would be under him.
It would be back under there.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really, yeah, got it.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is what I was kind of wondering, is if I would need to cut this down just a little bit, this batting, and I am. I'm just going to cut it down just a little bit, just so it doesn't argue with me and get in the way. I want it to kind of get caught underneath the all the nap there. Those fibers. So I'm clearly just whacking it out. Okay. I'm going to kind of fold this up because the fabric wants to roll in a little bit because it just went through a lot. Now this gets stuck onto here. So where that little line was, that's where this, oh no, what happened to my needle? There it is. That's where this is going to get stitched on. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clip or stick my needle in under here. I'm just going to do a big basting. So when I put this needle in, you see, this is what happens. So the thread just came right through. I'm going to come back over here and go through the seam allowances so I can try to get through the thicker part of it. Okay, because it will, because that llama is so kind of a looser weave that it will want to come through. That knot obviously will just come right through. So I'm going to just take some big, huge whip stitches here. And all I'm trying to do, which I know you cannot see, is that I'm trying to catch both layers of the neck. So I'm trying to catch both of those and through the back of the head. Okay, so I'm just trying to catch it. So kind of what I'm doing right now is basting it in position, and then I'm going to come back over it and sew it a couple more times. So this one, you'll want to make sure that you sew it a few times. It's the part that's going to get this super stress of being a part of this, and especially if you wash it. I know I've talked to a few people they've washed it and it's come undone. So make sure that you sew it really well. So now I'm going to go ahead and knot this so I can get another big thread and go back across. Again, just bringing the thread through, pulling it out somewhere else, cutting it. Now I'm going to cut another big one. Maybe if I get that little bit of thread out. Come on, okay. There we go. Okay, put that there so I don't lose it.
That is absolutely true. With the nap being this thick, the raw edge is not even a concern.
Yeah, not even close. The biggest issue will be getting it secured through the two layers of the neck and into the back of the head. So again, I'm going to come back here through the very side with the side seam. And this time I'm going to do a little bit smaller stitches. And really it's all about like the feel, because I can now feel where the edge is, because that's where it's real thick. So I'm going to grab through the back of the head, through those two layers.
And this is just a whip stitch now, right?
Just a whip stitch. Like I'm not even trying to hide it. It's just going to sit in there. But no one will ever see it. That's the thing. So it just totally hides in there. The biggest thing is make sure that maybe not biggest, but an important thing is make sure that when you're doing these stitches, and give them a good tug, because it'd be really easy to get a loop in there and never be able to see it. And then that's a loose spot. It will get snagged.
Okay, let's go back and answer a question about the batting that you used.
Yes.
And you showed 3 different kinds of batting yesterday, and we're only using 2 of the 3.
Yes, I showed the cotton one that I'm using for next week as well. So just to compare, so the cotton batting is what we're using for the cotton quilt. It is not used in this project.
Okay, guys, and all the batting is poly request.
No, the one was cotton.
Okay, got it. Sorry. So
the two for this one are poly. So one is poly loft and poly. Let's see.
There we go.
I've got my pictures.
There we go. Poly Dream and Poly Puff. So the Poly Dream is the lower the thinner one that she's using on this project, and then the high loft is the Dream Puff. Quilter's Dream Puff.
Right, and that's just what I
just used for the belly. Got it. The thinner stuff was used on the head and the back of the back and the front of the body.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Got him. Look at that.
Oh my goodness.
Let me see if I can get him so he can lay him out completely. He's a little big. Okay. So now at this point, he's got this little flopper.
Yep.
All right. I need to sew the hole in his head shut too. But he's got this little floppy head. If you want, and I know a lot of people do this, it's not in the pattern at all, but you can come under here and then stitch these together as well. Okay, so stitch basically part of his neck to part of his head, and just, come in there with a big whip stitch and just kind of knot it up in there so that his head doesn't do the flip-flop thing. Mostly just because when you pick it up, it'll do weird things, and you could keep his head together that way a little bit more. You could come through the whole thing and stitch from this side, but either way will work just fine. There you go. I think
when in doubt, add
done. When in doubt, add more stitches. Always add more stitches, because really, I'm going to go ahead and sew a little bit more. Because really, just getting him nice and strong is important. The other thing that you could use for this, so I'm using 2 layers of just the regular polyester thread that I always use, the Metler Metricine. And the other thing you could use would be a buttonhole thread or a hand quilting thread. Those are stronger even than this. So if you use that, it would be really good to be able to secure that. If you're going to give this to somebody who's going to kind of use and abuse it, it's a great.
That would as a child for sure. That would have been me. I would have been swinging this thing around by a deer.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So anywhere that it's going to get a lot of abuse, you could definitely do some extra stitches there. And then if you use the buttonhole thread when you're doing the hand stitching, it will secure it even better, because that stuff is super, super duper strong. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sew his head shut, and then we'll be done. I think that is all we have. So we should have a winner soon.
That's while you're doing that. Okay, yeah. There we go. Today's winner, Peg S.
Peg S. Ta-da. Thank you so much for watching, for sharing the love. I appreciate it. Make sure you message us through Shannon at Shannon Fabrics through the Facebook Messenger, and give us your mailing address, your phone number, your email, all of that good stuff, and we will send you a beginner box kit, which is a super great little kit with 3 1-yard cuts that makes 6 different projects. So fun little kit. All right, what else were you going to say?
I was just going to say, last chance to ask questions while we're getting his head sewn up.
Yep, we can do that.
I think everybody's pretty much there.
Great. So next week we will be at Bits and Pieces in Pelham. Right? That's how I pronounce it. Pelham, New Hampshire. And we will be there. It's a fabulous store with a ton of fabric. So if you are in the local area, please come visit us there. It's our last stop on the East Coast tour. And then we will be out of the tour for, I think it's 8 weeks. So we won't be doing any in-store events for about 8 weeks. Then we're going to start up the tour again in the fall. In August, we're going to be in Ohio. There's a whole list of places that we'll be. Don't forget, we will be around, though, for the summer doing a bunch of summer shorts, which will be some basics about working with Cuddle. And then we have a special event planned in July for a whole big thing that's coming out then.
Well, you actually, if you watched the intro video, you saw a little bit of the clip with the robot and the movie called Softer that our videographer Jeremy has been working on. Mm-hmm. And we have a cute, soft, little stuffy robot that we're going to do, and that is going to be a summer project. We'll pop in and do that. Other than that, those summer shorts are going to be 10 to 15 minutes long, basically in our same time slot. And they're going to be skill builders. They're going to be very specific technique-based stuff that you can always go back and refer to. We're recording those in advance and giving ourselves a chance to really plan out this fall tour. We've got 16 weeks of amazing shops between August 30th and Christmas, and we're going to end up all the way back out on the West Coast again with Cali Quilt Co. And all of these shops are going to be great events. We really want to see everybody out there. Come out, watch us do the show live, learn from Teresa in person. We're going to have a blast.
It's super fun. It's super fun. So we'll be doing a whole bunch of projects. Yeah, we're just getting started on it. It's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to that. So we have one more stop this tour. Come visit us there if you can. That's next week, 10 a.m. Oh, actually, can you grab that little brown quilt there?
Oh,
you can
sure.
grab me that whole pile. I'll give you a little sneak preview of what we're doing next week. Super fun. Okay.
Boom.
So this is one that we've been asked about a bunch. That's what that cotton batting was about. Is we're doing a cotton quilt and then backing it with Cuddle and doing a self-binding on it.
All right, what is this super cute fabric that totally relates to our life right now?
This is fabric from Clothworks. So this is from their Living the Dream collection.
All right.
That I've used to make this little quilt. So we'll be back next week. We'll talk all about it. I'll give you all the information on the fabric, how you can buy it at Bits and Pieces. And we'll show you a few different options on being able to finish a regular cotton quilt with a self-binding finish. So with Cuddle on it. So it'll be super fun. I can't wait to see you there. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking around for 3 days while we made my Lambie. He's super cute, right?
You asked for it. Now you get it.
Thank you so much. Until next time, happy sewing.